Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, #1 Amazon bestseller, Meredith Calloway.
Hello, and welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. I am your host, Meredith Calloway, and my guest today is Rachael O'Brien from How Far Adventures. And before I welcome Rachael, I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I'm going to read a little bit of her description on her About page on her website, which is howfaradventures.com, because I feel like you did such a great job with this, Rachael, and it's just very engaging, but also very real and very well written, which you're an incredible writer, so that doesn't surprise me that it's so well written. But let me go ahead and just read a teeny bit or some snippets from her About section on her website. Rachael O'Brien, founder and travel advisor. Before founding How Far Adventures, I spent years in front of the camera and behind the scenes as a television reporter and producer in the U.S. Virgin Islands, a high-level sports broadcaster in Atlanta and New York City, and a writer for travel and lifestyle publications. My career also wove through the world of television and film, where precision, performance, and storytelling were everything. That background shaped how I approached my first passion, travel, with a producer's eye for pacing, a journalist's hunger for authenticity, and an explorer's instinct for beautiful risk. I've traveled to 6 of the 7 continents, and I'm endlessly inspired by the Caribbean's barefoot luxury, the romantic rhythm of Europe, and the wild, transformative edges of the world that remind us who we are or who we can be. I believe in travel that moves you, not just from place to place, but from one version of yourself to the next, with the instincts of a journalist, a mother's heart for growth, and the grace of a seasoned traveler. I listen deeply, design thoughtfully, and deliver with polish and adrenaline. Every trip I plan is a reflection of who you are and who you might become once you step out into the wider world. Oh my God, that just gives me chills. So
Me
welcome.
too. I couldn't have said it better.
Welcome to the podcast, Rachael. Thanks for joining.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
Well, you wrote it, and
I
it's
did.
you.
I did. I did. I haven't gone back and read it in a while, and that's exactly it. The growth.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it in your background, you're absolutely right. The journalist's, instinct for pacing something is really important in the travel planning process. When you're designing an itinerary, understanding how to pace it, based upon those people traveling is very skillful.
Right. Their
It
personality.
it takes a lot of skill and a lot of instinct to know how to do that. But I also love, um, for me, when I see you on Facebook and I see you, posting or on Instagram posting about your travels, there are 2 things that really stand out that just, come right off the page or right off the screen. To me is number 1, your absolute passion for travel and how it does, um, invite growth in people's lives and open-mindedness. It really does change you, as well as how much you love teaching your kids through travel. Like using travel as the classroom.
And that's it. World schooling.
Yeah, yeah,
World schooling. And I think that's, you absolutely nailed it. That is the passion. It's to just get outside your 4 walls, get outside your
yeah.
comfort zone. What culture is your culture is teaching you, and stretch yourself. And
Mhm.
and and for the boys, my 2 boys, it was very, very early on. I said, I'm gonna raise culturally conscious children.
Ugh,
That
I love
first.
that.
Absolutely. And that's kind of, thank you for saying that you see that, because I feel like that is my goal with my client attraction. I want parents, moms, busy moms who want to step outside of their comfort zone, and they want their children to see the world or other, ways other children live, and it takes a push, and I've got that. I got that in me. Got that assertiveness in me.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely takes a push sometimes to get a little bit more adventuresome with your especially family travel,
Right.
right? Because I know there are parents who want to just do the comfortable thing. Go I was listening to an ad for an all-inclusive resort family this morning and I was like, I used to love, you know, all-inclusive resorts, but as I've done more and more travel, especially with my own kids,
Right.
I see how important it is to do things that are not so comfortable,
That's
because it really does change them. Um and they learn to appreciate what you are doing. I mean, now my kids, well, they just are so appreciative of every single trip we take. And it's really cool to look, have conversations and be like, yeah, remember when we were skiing in France or remember when we were um diving
swimming
in
from
that
behind.
pool in Norway? Exactly.
Right, in Costa Rica, absolutely, and
Yeah, yeah,
they remember
absolutely.
things you don't,
Yeah.
and they remember
So
things you don't.
I think, one of your missions, probably life missions, is to really inspire other families to step outside the comfort zone when it comes to travel with their kids and help others raise culturally conscious kids. So let's talk about how you got into this business. So
Oh.
you were, in a very different line of business.
Yeah.
So let's hear about, that journey.
So that journey, the hard way, the long and winding road. No, you mentioned the journalism and I feel like my years as a journalist did set the stage only because I listened to people. I listened to people
Yeah.
and I gained their trust. So I did that for many years in the Virgin Islands in two big cities. And then when I moved to the beach here in North Carolina, I had 2 children back to back, and then, I was still editing and doing that, but I knew I wanted to go back to work, just not in the film industry, 16 hours a day. Well, my marriage of 13 years, was slowly but surely coming to an end, and I remember this last vacation that our family planned, and I had an infant at that time, and I just remember the dopamine hits that I was feeling by planning this.
Yeah.
Um, and so, shortly after that, my marriage, we did divorce, and I found myself a single mom with 2 young boys,
Young
3
kids.
and 1.
Wow.
And I knew very quickly that I wanted to be with them every single day.
Mhm.
I wanted to be I wanted to be with them when they got off the bus. I wanted to be with them if they were sick. And I immediately went to travel only because travel was always the way I recalibrated in my career. It's the way I not necessarily escaped or restored, but it was how I, like I said, got that dose of dopamine and energy that I
Yeah.
needed to continue on, and so it was really a no-brainer. I started, like I said, the hard way. I got my own credentials, and I started booking, Disney destinations, and obviously the Caribbean because that was my passion, and I just started doing friends and family, and it
Yeah.
quickly morphed into a very big Rolodex, if you will, of families that wanted to be with their children, and so I feel like, I found you and Gifted Travel Network and Gift on a whim, through a supplier, a Royal Caribbean supplier. She gave me a ticket to Book More Travel Workshop, and at the
Oh,
time
interesting.
it was fate. There was another, colleague at this breakfast where she gave us the tickets. My colleague booked the hotel. I got neighbors to watch the boys, and I came to Charlotte for the weekend. And at the time, I had Disney World agents working for me. I was earmarked. Um,
Oh, wow.
and that was February of 2020.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were
Or
all in. And we were all in. I joined Tess. I was, clinking
yeah.
champagne flutes, and then March 2020 came, and
Yeah.
everything changed.
Literally like
Yeah.
2 or 3 weeks later. It's so funny that when I think about all those years of the Book More Travel workshop and how it really did change people's lives.
Did.
Well, it's what the intention of it was, and we succeeded at that. But the fact that we snuck in a Book More Travel workshop in
Right.
February of 2020, and we were completely, well, I would say completely oblivious because I think things have been started in,
Yeah.
like, China for sure.
Yes. And in
Um, but most of us were still oblivious.
Right. Right.
So when you say you got your own credentials, for anybody who's listening who doesn't understand what that means,
Sure.
it means that she actually went the independent route of getting her own IATA number so that she didn't actually have a host agency. And I actually talk about that in my book, in the chapter where in the escape plan, so you have ESCAPE, each one stands for a piece of the escape plan. And the C stands for choosing the right home.
Mhm.
And I talk about that's one of the very first things you have to consider when
Yes.
you want to become a travel advisor is, do I want to be completely independent or do I want to affiliate with someone who already has credentials? So you went the completely independent route. So now talk and thank you for sharing about, being very vulnerable, going through a divorce with really young kids. How did you just get yourself through that? Before we get to, post pandemic,
Sure.
I just want to hear about, like, did you discover any kind of strength and
Oh,
looking
yeah.
back that you didn't realize you had? How did you get through that? Because that's a tough age, and that is a scary, scary place to be.
It really was, and in retrospect, I look back and go, I had to have been drowning. What I discovered about myself, which I also always knew, is I do thrive in a little bit of risk and chaos. Um, and that yeah, I've got the resilient spirit for sure, and I think it bleeds into the way I travel and the way I want people to travel. But, definitely my faith. I mean, goodness
Yeah,
gracious, definitely my faith. I leaned into that and, just I went into to survival. I mean, I
yeah,
sta and, anybody that's kind of thinking about going into this business, just to circle back to you saying choosing the right home, I was kind of accustomed to being an island, I think,
mm,
and so
yep,
it's just it's what I did, and so, that was what I did. I put my kinda survival skills, my toughness, my fearlessness, into it and cried a lot, and I don't
yeah,
know, like, now when you look back, I just think I was still able to be with them every single day. I was still
yeah,
maybe he didn't go into preschool until probably 18 months, half day, and still I
right,
would be you know, and I think also, like, my sphere of influence at that time, mothers that age and stage was just I
yeah,
leaned on them, and then they became my clients, and,
yeah,
but I I'm not going to sugarcoat it by any means. I It was a shotgun approach. It was just this buckshot. I was kind of just shooting and
yeah.
seeing where it landed, and fortunately, 8 years later, it's landed me on your podcast.
That's amazing. That's
Uh
awesome.
But I think,
Um,
just the passion that I already had and knowing that I was gonna be able to fill my passport up and theirs, and then the goal
yeah.
was to reach other parents, other like-minded parents.
So talk to us about the transition from, I mean, having your own earmarked agency is a really big deal. If you're listening and you don't really know what that is, I'll tell you, that's a big deal. It is not easy to get earmarked by Disney. Um, and it just basically is a status, I guess,
Mhm.
that, you've sold a certain minimum of Disney, both all parks, cruise, all of it.
Right.
Um, and that once you hit that status, they give, additional benefits. And so you have to be very Disney focused to meet those um, minimum thresholds of sales, and you really do have to sell mostly Disney. It's actually a really interesting case study because I've been thinking a lot about the evolution of this profession. And if you look at 30 years ago, the profession was travel agent, not travel advisor.
Right.
Um, and 30 years ago, most agents were truly transactional. They were order takers, they were employees. They didn't have to worry about running a business. All they had to do was show up and answer the phone. They didn't have to worry about marketing or
Right.
attracting
Yeah, people
clients.
walked in their front door.
Yeah, yeah, if you had a
Mhm.
great location in on Main Street in town, that was all the marketing you had to do. And back then, the travel agent was the owner of the information about flights. There was no such thing as an online booking engine, and
Correct.
so you didn't actually know what options were out there, so you would have to call a travel agent if you wanted to book a flight or do anything else. The introduction of the World Wide Web, as well as the airlines, every single one of them deciding to eliminate paying commissions on airfares, those are all things that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, and had a massive, massive impact on our profession. And so what happened is many people who were, in that brick and mortar style employed as a travel agent, um, a lot of those agencies, like I want to say almost 50% of them ultimately had to close. And so you had this whole disruption and all these travel agents who were at home, but their clients were still calling them.
Right.
So that just brought about the travel advisor, but the travel advisor needs to have some entrepreneurial skills, and no one was really offering them. So now that was like kind of like this middle evolution of travel advisor. And I think a lot of people did what you did. They got their own affiliation like you did. You got your own IATA credentials and you focused on something that was really, really marketable to the people that your sphere of influence, right? You
Yeah.
focused on Disney because that was families and that was what the demand was for. Um, sorry, this is kind of like a long introduction to the question, but I
Mm.
want to get to the question of I think now post pandemic, um, the profession is going through another very important evolution, and that is really focusing on the luxury travel advisor, focusing on planning luxury. So can you look at before
Sure.
and now look at today and what is better about your business? And what is it that you see in the evolution from travel advisor to really travel entrepreneur, luxury travel entrepreneur?
Sure. Sure. Um, what's better about my business now is I get to do what I said in my bio. I am choreographing confidence in
Yeah.
these people, and I'm getting to editorialize and storytell. And you mentioned the World Wide Web. There are still clients out there that are happy with Expedia and a confirmation email.
Mhm.
Um, but that's not my client. My client has the discernment and they have, I was saying this to someone the other day. Well, just when they said, travel advisor, oh, you're going to lose your job to AI. And I thought, AI can handle logistics. AI cannot handle taste. AI cannot handle preference or trust. And that's what the luxury client wants.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and they also want access, and
Yes.
so, while I did have access to Disney destinations, which is not necessarily easy. I think that's why people came to me. It was a desirable destination. It was my sphere of influence, but I had the access. My kids went 7 times at, under the age of 5.
Yeah.
And then as I really kind of started getting into doing more of the travel that I wanted to do, these, adventure trips to Costa Rica and these,
Mm,
trips to Provence, and when you're truffle hunting and that kind of thing, that access, and discernment really is what's translating now, I think, to
yeah.
my clients, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting to open their eyes. I feel like it's wonderful to plan it, but the best part for me is, and this isn't necessarily how it was in my early stages, was travel is about the return. It's about when
Yeah.
the people are like, and my clients come back to me and say, "This is how I felt. This is
Yeah.
my point of view now. This is my perspective." Um,
It's the
um,
fulfillment.
so
That's what makes it so fulfilling, and that's we talk about at GTN that if you have the 3 Fs, um, in your experience of being an entrepreneur, and the 3 Fs are freedom, and as in freedom to choose where you work, when you work, how you work, with whom you work. Um, and you have the fulfillment, which is like a long-term satiation, right? The fulfillment that comes from knowing you're making a incredibly positive difference in the lives of others. And the third F is financial satisfaction. When you have all 3 of those exist, now you've reached entrepreneurial success. And I think a lot of people get into travel because they know it's gonna be so fulfilling. They get the same dopamine hit that you were
Sure.
talking about, when they're planning their own trip, and they become real gurus because it's just so much fun to plan their own trips. But I think a lot of people, especially, you know, going back to pre-pandemic, the business model, um, it was really hard to get to financial satisfaction. In real terms, quite frankly, focusing on Disney is 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 one, it's really hard to monetize that. It's really hard to monetize that.
It's really hard to monetize that, and like you said, you have to sell a minimum to get this. I mean, I can go back and look at old emails. I was selling 6 Disney trips a month, and that's
Wow.
a lot of
That's a
early
lot.
mornings, late nights, and a
Yes.
lot of and it's
A lot of sitting on hold, listening to small.
lot of sitting on hold. Absolutely, absolutely. Um No, the freedom, that first F, that reigns supreme with this
Yeah.
entrepreneurial journey. That
Yeah.
that is what reigns supreme, and what I would want to kind of be this lasting message to anyone that's looking to get into this industry. I mean, as a single mom, um, I get to choose when my out of office goes on and off, and,
Yeah.
I get to choose to stop at 3 o'clock when the yellow school bus rolls in.
Yeah. That's
Definitely
all.
fulfilling. The third one, the financial success, I have 2 insatiable adolescents, so, I don't know if I've reached that yet. No, we'll reach that when they're going and staying at the Nash Strip, the Four Seasons, once a year.
But what I wanna talk about is you said something really interesting,
Okay.
that when I asked you how you got through that real low point where you're going through a divorce, you've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and you decided to start this travel business, you said that you've always been, like a lone island
Mm,
and able to kind of just suck it up on your own, like, be self-reliant.
that's it.
But now, um, you have joined a host, you let go of that independence. That's a pretty dramatic change in your business, and being hosted. So what is the benefit and how did that mindset shift for you? Like, how did you make that mindset shift that I don't need to be alone anymore?
Well, as we mentioned, when I joined, Tess at the Book More Travel workshop and that
Which was a coaching program that we
yeah,
offered at Gift before we
yeah,
sunset Gift.
and you guys were online
Yeah.
perpetually. The Zoom meetings came, to our world, and it was the education came to the top of the totem pole, and honestly, I say I was an island, but, grew up at a summer camp. That is what GTN has created, is this just collaborative community of men and women that want to first off, they wanna glean wisdom from one another, but they also want to offer what's worked, what's not worked.
Yeah.
Um, I'll never forget, I'll never forget the phone call after me being in a handful of meetings, group symposium, everybody just talking about the benefits of being with Virtuoso, aligned with a host agency, the amount of education, the benefits, the support you give, and, Vanessa McGovern called me and she says, "Why haven't you joined our host agency?" And I said, Today is the day. Today is the day." And everything changed. Honestly, everything changed. It's kind of where just my instinct and
Yeah.
pacing and just the passion and everything, it came together. So I'm not sure what necessarily finally made me shift, but it's something actually I work on every day because the support is there and
Yeah.
benefits are there and the relationships are there. That's something that I have to lean in. And then when I do, it's like, oh, this door just opened or this light bulb just went off.
So basically what you're saying is every time you do lean in and release that feeling of I need to do this by myself, it benefits you. And
Immensely.
I love your story because you were able to kind of get a taste of the education and
Right.
business guidance we were offering at Gift, the Global Institute for Travel Entrepreneurs. And now you that was enough to show you that it really was worth giving up that independence and joining a host agency, um, because I think a lot of people think that if they join a host, they're not going to get individual recognition. They lose that. There's a lot of egoic attachments to
Sure.
being independent, and they're afraid to lose that when they join a host. But I think what you're saying is that like joining a host actually made your life better
Oh, absolutely.
and your business better.
Absolutely. It made my business better. It made,
Yeah.
my credentials, already being able to be aligned with the consortia, and all of the hotel elite groups. It elevated
Hmm.
my status, from the get-go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're independent affiliates of you guys. Your model is
Right.
is is very different. So it's the support is just that. And as far as the way I started thinking, "I'm gonna do this on my own," I actually just didn't know better.
Yeah.
I didn't know better. I thought, "Well, I like going to Disney, so I'm gonna help other people go to Disney, and I'm gonna do it from, this computer." I had no idea. That is the one thing that I'll say. It's like when you said, "How did you get into this journey?" I said, "Oh, the hard way, the long and winding road," 'cause um, 'cause I wouldn't recommend doing it the way I did it. My
Right.
story is my story, but if for anyone listening that is thinking about getting into it, you said the sea, choose your home.
Yeah. The tip you would give is find a home that what?
Well, find a home that supports you and your brand and your messaging and then bolsters that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily find, someone who you're equally yoked with. It's know what you want and then choose your home that's going to be the wind beneath those wings.
Yeah. No, I love that. I
Mhm.
love that. I wanna change direction a little bit, and I wanna talk about mindset because I've observed you since you joined us in February of 2020. I mean, the relationship as a whole. I have seen your mindset really grow, and ultimately what I'm saying is when, you're not aware of the mindset weeds, we inherit all these mindset weeds from people who raised us, and most of the time they meant well. It wasn't like they were trying to sabotage us.
Sure.
But we definitely inherit a lot of scarcity mindset. We inherit a lot of doubt and lack of worth. And then you have life experience that almost exacerbates that. And really, what it is the voice of fear gets really, really loud, and you lose sight of how to turn down the volume on the voice of fear so you can actually tune into the voice of truth or voice of love. Talk to us about your mindset journey and what has made a difference for you, because I've seen that really evolve, and I've seen you really grow as a person into this person who's much more confident, leaning into your brilliance, like really owning your brilliance and confident about it as opposed to apologetic for it.
Right, right. No, thank you for bringing that up. That's my favorite thing to talk about. That's my favorite thing to talk about because, people, I think, can walk around in this world and not even consider their blueprint in their head.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
what the early encounters is what formed you and how you see yourself in the world, and definitely fear, doubt, worthiness. I got a lot of, it's too, oh, that's too hard. Or I got
mhm,
a lot of, you got to do this on your own. You gotta do
yeah,
this on your own. You gotta pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Nobody's coming for you. This
mhm,
is my busy life. This is so you've got to definitely do a lot of patterning those
yeah.
pathways. And, you've done meditation with us over the years, your mindset, magic. Is it mindset magic? Um,
Mindset IQ nowadays.
yeah,
We feel like changing the name, but
yeah.
yeah,
So the law of attraction and what you believe about yourself is what you convey to the world and to your clients and your relationships. So I have found that when I lean into who I really, really am,
mm,
and that I this was a game changer for me, is that I don't have to be liked by every single client. I don't
yeah,
have I'm going to disappoint some, people. This is who I am, and then my business gets aligned, my personal life gets aligned.
yeah,
I've had accountability after accountability meetings with colleagues in GTN, and, I write, obviously, that's my passion, and I'll say, when I start writing for them and not for me and from a place
mm,
what I believe, I feel like the calls quit coming or the emails quit coming or I get aligned with the wrong person,
mm.
the person that's not a good fit for me.
So,
So,
basically what you're saying is when you find yourself falling into that kind of a trap
sure.
of trying to write an article you think they're gonna wanna read, as opposed to writing from the heart. Basically, writing from the head versus writing from the heart.
Writing from the head, not wanting to offend, maybe this will appeal to a larger audience. That's not me.
Please,
That's
please, please.
please, 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 that's never been me. That's actually the
Yeah.
antithesis of me. If the truth be known, I wanna live a full, authentic life.
Yeah,
And that's and based on, I mentioned my faith getting me through this, based on my belief system, based on my values, my convictions. And I find that when I do that, my writing is prettier, more palatable in my opinion, but it's also the people that want to work with me come to me. And the people
yeah,
that I want to help or that are looking for my medicine or my message that's who comes to me,
Yeah.
you know?
I Something that is, we're not saying here, but we're kind of saying passively is I talked about this in my other podcast episode with Melissa Nagelberg, who's actually still a travel MBA student, about the fact that branding and starting with branding,
Right,
and you've done it incredibly well as well, is you've built your brand around your brilliance.
right.
And I stood on so many stages and taught about this, and it seems so simple, but it is so true. And it really, really is effective, is when you can lean into your brilliance, identify your brilliance, really own it, and build a whole brand and brand message around that brilliance.
Mhm.
You make an incredible shift in your marketing. And that shift is that you go from trying to get. Your marketing no longer is transactional. Your marketing shifts into a giving place. And it really speaks to the person that you want to attract. It's really about going truly deep
It is.
into what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Which is probably why I have a hard time, we talked about the all-inclusives earlier, why I have a hard time with those surface vanilla trips is that's not how I
Yeah.
want to live my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I wanna rent a car and stop off at the Jerk Shack, and then I
Right.
want to go and, see what this tour operator is doing who's got a little stand on the side of the road, and see what he can show us, and meet his children, and kick a soccer ball with them. The mindset that I remember being on with you one time, and I think it was in the meeting actually where I said, "I'm moving to Costa Rica. I'm taking my
Oh, I
children out of school, and we are going to Costa Rica for, umpteen time." I did change my tune a little. I did ended up getting a round trip ticket because the destination requires it.
okay.
But I remember saying, "I don't want to stay here and kick against the pricks anymore. This is
Yeah.
exactly what's on my heart, and so we're going." And we did 2 years ago, right now, actually.
Oh, I remember watching that journey, and from the moment you put it out there, and the amount of fear and, like, that inner talk, that inner critic talk that comes up when you do put something big out like that, but it was truly on your heart,
Well,
where Rachel wanted to take her kids out of school and create the world classroom for them by and did you go for, like, 6 weeks? How long was it?
yes, 6 weeks, well, just under 2 months.
Just under 2 months
Mm.
during school year. It wasn't a summer.
No, it was during wave season, January,
Right.
February.
And yes, January, February, she took them out of school and they went to Costa Rica for 6 weeks, and, watching you post about it, I mean, you were just glowing the entire time. So tell us, is there one thing or maybe multiple things that came out of that, right? Like, that you received because you followed your heart.
Definitely. I mean, I think the one thing that came out was we can do hard things. We
Yeah.
we can do hard things, and we can do it together. It was kind of one of those trips where I wish this on people sometimes, but at the same time, I wouldn't. It was one of those things where we were guessing. We were building the plane as we were flying it, right?
Yeah.
Which is a testament to who I am. But it was just we kept being met with one obstacle after another.
Yeah.
Accidents, lice, a broken toe, you know, it just was
Lights.
I got very sick. It was wave season, as I mentioned, so we're staying in a lot of fincas, really stretching ourselves, and then I had so many clients, so we were checking ourselves into these five-star hotels so I could have this beautiful backdrop and good internet, so, it was just I think just what taught me was we can weather the storm and enjoy the ride,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's really that's what I want people to do. I think whenever I said when people come back from their trips and they say this happened and this happened, some of the best memories are the ones where there was something they had to overcome.
Yeah.
It wasn't just easy breezy. It
Yeah.
was, they had to actually push themselves or challenge themselves um, yeah, and then basically what the other thing it taught me was, I grew their brains by traveling.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Mhm.
We can do hard things is I love that philosophy. I honestly was having a conversation with my 18-year-old son just yesterday about, I don't want to raise someone who is a quitter at things. And so when things do get hard, it's important that I sternly but not harshly encourage you to stick at it so you don't quit.
Right.
Because if you just grow up learning that if something gets really hard and you can quit, you'll never succeed at what you really want to succeed at,
And
right? Because you don't learn how to get through that hard part, right?
and sit with the emotions.
And sit with the emotions. Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yes.
'cause life,
Yeah.
is rising and cresting and falling.
Yeah. I've seen this female speaker who I think is a professor at Duke talk about this whole like journey between where you are and where you want to be. She draws it on a chalkboard and she talks to like high school kids about it. And she's like, this is where you are. This is where you want to be. And in between is that, like you just said,
Purposeful.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it can be
circuitous.
like a roller coaster. It really can.
Yeah.
And if I were, she says to them, if I were to ask you what resilience is, you're going to give me a lot of positive words, right? It's strength, it's power, it's the ability to survive, right? All of that.
Yes. Mhm.
Right. But she's like, but honestly, when you're in that in between, the number one emotion you feel is frustration.
Right.
And most people would look at the fact that they're feeling frustrated and feel defeated, right? That, they must be failing
Right.
if they're frustrated. And what she says is the people who are most successful in the world are the ones who can live with that feeling of frustration longer
Right.
because ultimately you get there. But the number one emotion you're going to feel when you're in that in between is frustration. So maybe the reframe is next time I feel frustrated, I can look at it in a different light and be like, oh, I must be onto something if I'm
Yeah.
feeling frustrated.
Not
This is good,
frustrating. Right.
right? Yeah.
Right. No, I used this kind of analogy the other day about a surfer. It's like, well, this if you just jump off every time you're feeling fear or you just
Yep.
wipe out the second, then you never get to experience a life.
Yeah.
Your 18-year-old is living a large life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that is a testament to what you just said you're teaching them. Yep.
Right. We're going to ride this out. And,
Mhm.
it's, I remember being 18 and being like, you don't understand, mom. You don't understand, mom and dad. This is so much harder than you think it is. Um, and not letting me quit. And so I think it's important that you just don't, you hold your children accountable and don't create that bubble of comfort for them, you know.
Absolutely. Oh, boy. What's
You
my
we
mantra?
we have another podcast on parenting.
Yeah, but we talk about this all the time. Travel is the greatest teacher. It's the greatest
Absolutely.
teacher, and so, you know, life is not a bubble. It's not a bubble, and if you
Yeah.
choose to live in that bubble or self-created bubble, then you miss out on a lot of life, and you miss out on the wild world, and you have a narrow scope. It's so funny that that is what we're talking about because that is what I'm always talking about.
Yeah.
And I wanna say this about my name, and my branding. How far came from the song How Far I'll Go because of the line, "See the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me." And
Oh,
s And so for me, I grew up reading this. I lived in the Virgin Islands for a long time, and there was an author down there, Captain Fatty Goodlander, who wrote Chasing the Horizon. And that has just been my mantra this whole
Yeah.
time. Obviously with my passion for travel early, um, and then in my business, and then what I want my clients to know is just chase the horizon. It isn't just a all-inclusive resort on the,
Yeah.
shores of the Dominican Republic. It's what's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah. Yeah. And how can we build more memories together, right? Yes, you'll build memories at an all-inclusive,
Sure.
but absolutely,
Time and place.
you're gonna build bonds and connections with each other, which create even more nutritious memories,
Absolutely.
um, when you step outside your comfort zone.
And we've got this
And
finite
and
time
I
to do it.
promise you, there an all-inclusive is not really getting you to step outside your comfort zone.
No, no. It's restorative for a minute,
Right.
but no,
Exactly is.
that's
Yeah.
not the goal.
There's a place for it. So we are way over time.
Ah,
I could keep talking forever, so maybe I'll have you back and we can come up with a theme for, maybe it is just a parenting conversation,
yeah,
as
mindset.
business owners, right? Like, how do you parent and be a business owner all at the same time?
Yeah.
Um, but I want to end with my favorite question. So, you did take that leap of faith when things were really, really hard and scary. And now you have this successful business. You are a travel advisor, you're a travel entrepreneur. Um, can you identify a moment or an experience that you've had because of this journey where you were kind of like, oh my God, pinch me. I can't believe I get to do this for a living?
Couple of
Yeah.
them, and they all include, being on the bow of a boat somewhere, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but, no, I know exactly what I wanna say. This past October, a few months ago, I got to do an extraordinary trip to Italy with our partner, IC Bellagio, and it was a
And it
reward.
was because you were one of our top accelerators.
That's
I
true.
mean, you're being very humble, but basically, Rachel was one of 10 that got to go on this trip. 10 of you went on that trip. And that was because she was one of our top accelerators, which we want to reward people for being a top producer. We have a top producer trip every single year, but we also want to reward people who are on that journey and showing growth
Right.
on that journey. And that's what the top accelerators are, the ones that have shown the most amount of year over year sales growth, but also are very engaged in our community. So carry on.
Well, you did. Well, we boarded a yacht in Ischia, Italy, and we're on a private yacht kind of up and down the Amalfi Coast, and there was this time that I'm gonna tear up. The captain stopped in outside of Positano, quintessential vertical city, gorgeous sunny day, and my colleagues and I were on the aft of the boat with prosecco and this Italian music and taking pictures, and I just thought, "This is unreal. I get to do this. I get
Yeah.
to do this, I get to earn this and do this that I love for me, for my children, for my clients." It was amazing. It was just, champagne flute in the sky and Pusitano in the
Oh,
background and all of us smiling, so that was that was it.
and
More to
and
come.
what's so cool about that is if you didn't do this for a living, you would never have that experience.
Absolutely.
And I love that you're sharing that because I think that's such a cool part of this profession. Those who are looking at this profession have no idea how fulfilling when you have been able to, build a business around your passion. Of course, that's going to be fulfilling. But when it's a business that's actually supporting you too, financially supporting you, and you're an entrepreneur, you not only have this great business that's fulfilling, you also have a life that you love. And those kind of experiences, like, I really thought you were going to talk about an experience with your kids,
Not this
but I know
time.
how special those are. So
Yeah,
the fact that you talked about an experience with other advisors in your network,
that
and it's
that was a
because
pleasure.
it,
Yes.
the when we do a very good job of building a collaborative community. And that's part of the reason why is because we know how important it is to have those kind of professional connections with others who are on the same journey. We don't
Absolutely.
see competition. And there's other hosts where people feel very competitive with the other people in their host. We don't encourage competition. We don't believe in competition. We believe a rising tide lifts all boats. And so it's really important for us to create that collaborative community. So I love that because it was an incredible experience on its own, but I know it was enhanced by the people that were on that trip with
Absolutely.
you.
That I get to travel the world with, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
so no, for sure.
yeah.
I've got the picture. I've got the photo capturing the moment too.
Oh, well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've really, really enjoyed it. Congratulations on your success in
Thank
parenting too, and realizing that dream that you had, that thing that was on your heart, and you did it. Actually, I have one more question
'Kay.
because I'm just very, very curious. What's next on the parenting side? Like you did that. Now what's next?
What's next is, summer camp, with Real Madrid Football Club in Madrid,
Oh my goodness.
and, we're gonna do that this summer and hopefully, spend
Will you relocate to is it in
live
Europe?
a month, I hope.
And
I'm
will you relocate for that month?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Oh,
Love it.
yes. Oh, yeah, we're going. I'll partner with our Spain partners for
Yep.
some of the journey, but while they're, in day camp, it's day camp, but they get to play with the Real Madrid Football Club, trainers,
Yeah.
then I'll just stay in Madrid and we'll just do little night things. Live as the locals.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. All
Thank
right,
you.
Rachel. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you, everybody, for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.